Chairman of the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee, Taiwo Oyedele, has outlined the consequences Nigerians may face if the new tax laws are not implemented by January 1st, 2026. Speaking in an interview, Oyedele said about 98% of Nigerian workers could continue to suffer multiple taxation if the reforms are delayed. His comments followed calls by former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, Labour Party's 2023 presidential candidate, Peter Obi, and civil society groups for the suspension of the laws. Oyedele, however, urged critics to seek amendments rather than outright cancellation, noting that some sections passed by the National Assembly require review. President Bola Tinubu recently signed 4 tax reform bills into law, described as the most comprehensive overhaul of Nigeria's tax system in decades. The laws are scheduled to take effect on January 1st, 2026. Now to party politics. The People's Redemption Party, PRP, has called for the suspension of the newly enacted tax reform laws signed by President Bola Tinubu. The party claims the version gazetted for public use differs from what was passed by the National Assembly. In a statement, PRP's national chairman, Falelu Bello, demanded a full-scale investigation into alleged discrepancies, insisting those found culpable must be punished. The party also urged the federal government to halt implementation pending resolution, warning of possible court action. The call follows revelations by a lawmaker that some provisions in the gazetted laws were not debated or approved by lawmakers. While the presidency dismisses claims of secret alterations, critics, including former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and Labour Party candidate Peter Obi, have also called for suspension until clarifications are made. The tax laws are scheduled to take effect on January the 1st, 2026, and the controversy has sparked widespread debate over democratic governance and executive authority. We're now being joined via Zoom to discuss this by a legal practitioner, Mitiu Akinsoya. Mitiu, good evening and thanks for joining us.
Good evening and thank you for having me.
Okay, let's begin. What is the legal implication of this uncertainty over the new tax laws?
Yes, so under our system, the lawmaking powers are conferred on the legislature, the National Assembly in our case, and that's the Senate and the House of Reps. And the powers to assent to those bills before they become law is on the executive or on the president, as in this case. So whatever the National Assembly passes into law, if the president or the executive is not satisfied with the content, what the executive should do is to highlight those provisions that they are not satisfied with and then send it back to the National Assembly for another round of debates and for possible amendments as the executive may wish. Our system does not provide for a situation where the National Assembly passes a bill and then the executive or the president will alter that bill. So if investigation shows that the bill that was sent by the National Assembly to the executive was altered, that's a big mess of the whole situation. And what that means is that we must go back to the drawing board. Perhaps the National Assembly will have to look at it again and then re-forward that bill to the president for a proper assent.
Okay. Now, it looks like a large section of Nigerians has been conspicuously silent about this issue, meaning that maybe they're not bothered. But can the House of Reps alone handle the gaps involved?
Of course, the House of Reps cannot do it alone. We run a bicameral legislature. They have to do it in consonance with the Senate. I do not know if these additions are true or not, but I know that presently there is an investigative panel set up already by the House of Reps. What we look forward to seeing is how quickly they can conclude their investigation and come out with a report. And if the report shows that the bill that was sent to the president was tampered with, then of course the Senate will also have to weigh in. We would not expect to see a situation where the Senate will keep silent, because that will open a Pandora's box, and that will also make a mess of our institution, a mess of our arms of government.
Okay. So thank you very much for joining us and for sharing your insight.